one might think that the choice between good and evil is an obvious one, and that we would always choose good. You do this, good things will happen to you, good things will come into your life. You do this, it's evil, it'll bring bad things into your life, it's called sin, you're going to suffer some consequences you don't want. Good or evil? Which do you choose? So we say. Because in a perfect world, you might say it's an easy choice. But just take a look at the short list of things which are not good. Evil, lying, cheating, stealing, getting drunk, overeating, not exercising. That's not good, is it? Gossip. And the list goes on. And so when we see that list, it's better not to be naive and think, well, we'll always choose the good. Because sometimes the stuff that's bad for us, that we even might know in our head is bad for us, ends up making us suffer. But we don't see it because right up front it looks good, feels good, so we'll do it. And later on, we will end up sorry, if we have any sense. It's an internal struggle that goes on. And it's a struggle that's that we can see exemplified in Adam and Eve. We didn't hear the part of their choice here in today's first reading. We just heard the results of it. So the choice was, God says, here's your garden. Anything in this garden is yours. Oranges, bananas, mangoes, anything in this garden is yours. Green beans. What a deal. But one. There's just one tree you cannot eat from, for it's going to be bad for you. It'll bring death. And so what do? They choose the one thing, being deceived by the serpent, the devil, into thinking that now you become like God. So they choose the thing which they were told would be bad for them, and they suffer the consequences. So the consequences are in today's reading that they feel guilt and shame, and they go and hide themselves because they were ashamed. That's not good. But, one time in the confessional, I asked someone, after they confessed a particularly nagging sin that repeated over and over, and I said, for your penance, would you be willing to ask God to take away your favorite sin? There was a long hesitation on the other side of the screen. Think about it. One time I was preaching, and there was an 8-year-old sitting in the second seat, and I asked the rhetorical question, what would life be without like if nobody sinned? And the 8-year-old blurted out, boring. And yet we know that it ends up being bad. Guilt and shame in an internal struggle which all of us feel. Even if we choose the good, there's a struggle. And not only that, it turns people against each other. It's not just internal, it's what goes on in our relationships with others. You heard it in that first reading. It's like, what happened? Why did you eat that? Well, Eve, she's responsible. Blame somebody else. And then he talks to Eve, and she says, oh, it's the serpent. It's not my fault. It's somebody else's fault. And if we don't take responsibility for our lives, we're giving up the power we have to live well. When we blame somebody else, it causes conflict. How many times do we get into an argument and what is the truth is no longer the point, but the point is who's going to win this argument, who gets the last word? Has that ever happened to you? It causes conflict between us. And it's not only that, it's also in our nation. Think of the hostility that there is, the divisions, and the kinds of vitriol that goes on between people, between our politicians, that they can't just get together and talk about something and work for the good of the country, the common good. You know, your side actually has a few good points here. Well, okay, your side does too. Jesus said, a kingdom, a country divided against itself cannot stand. Is there anybody in here who thinks that our country will stand as a great country if this continues and gets worse? And we're the ones who elected him. Both sides of the aisle. Choose the good and avoid the evil. It's not such an easy choice. But maybe we could say with St. Paul, but we are not discouraged. Really? That's what he said. We are not discouraged. Because we have the same spirit of faith which lived in St. Paul and in the early people of the church, the great saints, the martyrs, the apostles, and the saints, we have that same spirit of faith within us. And while our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed. By the outer self, we not only can think about our bodies, but those things in life which we kind of counted on, those sinful kinds of things, and evil things that we do, those things are going to waste away. They do. While our inner self is being renewed. Meaning, for one thing at least, that we begin to learn from our mistakes. You know what? I chose that last time. I thought it might be bad. I was told it was. I found out it was. I'm not doing it anymore. The inner self is being renewed. And isn't that what we need? To have our inner hearts renewed so that we might recognize the good and even more, that we might have the power to live it out. Our opening prayer, our closing prayer, you'll see it again. That we have the wisdom and the action, the power to live it out. So what we do is we go not for what is seen, because what is seen is going to pass away, but rather we go for what is unseen. That spirit that dwells within us, that is urging us, prompting us to choose what is good, to live it out, and leave all the other stuff, the sin, the evil, all that list, and a much longer list, all those things which end up harming our lives. Sometimes to choose the good is the harder choice in the moment. It doesn't look good, doesn't feel good, but I've already tried the other one. That's bad. That's bad. So our inner self needs to be renewed. So we just might pray. Let's choose a sin. Choose anyone. Gossip. Let's say gossip. You know, a person might say, I'm getting tired of my own mouth. Might pray this to God. I'm getting tired of my own mouth. I can't keep it shut. I end up gossiping about other people. God, I know this is bad. I don't like it. And I'm getting caught in it too. I don't like speaking that way about people I'm supposed to like or people I work with. So I ask you to please help me take away this sin. And the next time I'm tempted to do it, why don't you just choke me or something? I don't know. But help me to choose something else. Teach me to look, to see something good in somebody else, to talk about that. This is what I pray, oh God. I need your power in my life. Please take away that sin and help me to choose the other. So that might be an example of a prayer. Jesus said, "Who are my mother and my brothers and my sisters? Anyone who hears the word of God and lives it out is brother and sister and mother to me." He wants us to know we are his brothers and sisters and mothers. And he'll help us, give us the grace to do that.